everybody, and welcome to my channel. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a kind of like a deconstruction video of my latest song that I just released, Petrichor, or Petrichor. Honestly, I don't know how to pronounce it. Basically, it's the smell that you smell after it hasn't rained for a long time. It's like a mix of like oils from plants mixing with clay and dirt and all that interesting stuff, I guess. You can look it up on Wikipedia like I did. Yeah, this is the song. If you haven't heard it already, I suggest checking it out. Okay, so that's the YouTube video. I'm pretty sure you've already seen that. So let's go to the project file and take a look at what I did. So if you're new to making music, you're probably looking at this going, oh my god, this is so overwhelming. What are all these buttons and what does all this crap do? I thought the same thing when I first discovered Logic. Let's talk about a really favorite of mine plugin. It's a BBC Orchestra or Symphony Orchestra plugin by Spitfire Audio. It's free and it's amazing. It's honestly, I've used native instruments. No, I'm not trying to diss native instruments, but this is better in my opinion. If you're starting out and don't know how to articulate the samples properly, this makes it really easy for a beginner to sound really good. I find native instruments to be too complicated. You know, you hear about all these great expensive plugins. Honestly, the best advice I can give anyone, don't waste your money on them. Like, just don't. Especially if you are just starting out. Like, you gotta learn the basics first, because if you go off and buy this really fancy, expensive stuff, if you have the money for it, great. But if you don't buy it. Get the free stuff. It works just as well. So here's the cello just on its own. And I know I'm just going through the microphone on my iPhone right now, which isn't really the best, but now you're probably wondering why when I hit the play button that the sound isn't coming in right away. Well, as you can hear from the song itself, I've added some automation to make it sound more natural when it comes in, so you kind of get that realistic kind of feel. I'm no professional when it comes to mixing orchestral arrangements and stuff like that, but you know, there's only one way to get better, is to practice. So here's the rest of the orchestra. Okay, so that's the strings in the beginning. Here's the... I don't know what you would call this. Maybe like a vinyl record sample. I got this sound from Splice. Splice isn't... again, I've not been endorsed by any of these companies, unfortunately. But if you're looking for loop libraries and the ability to access samples on the fly, where you don't have to download a whole, like, let's just say you want, the beauty of Splice, which I like about Splice, is that you can click on a sample pack and you don't have to download the whole thing. You can pay for it yearly or monthly, and it's about, here in Canada where I live, it's about, I want to say 14 bucks a month. And yeah, it's just a great platform for getting those little tidbits for your music, like risers and you know, all the special effects sounds that kind of fill in the song. Like, for instance, I made my own riser in this song right here. As you can see, it says NBM riser, and I will play it. So it's a white noise riser. And I added effects to it and all that. I can show you the waveform of it. Let's see. Yeah, as you can see, it rises. And generally, if you have long gaps of silence, you might want to have things fade in and fade out a bit. Also, I mean, there's so much that I can tell you about this project. And right now I'm trying to build up my YouTube channel so that I can get enough people to ask me questions so that I can make videos about things that they're interested in. But right now my subscriber count's a bit low, which is okay. We all got to start somewhere. Okay, so now let's go on to the bass line. Let me see, what can I tell you guys about bass? Well, I like bass, as you can tell. That's one thing I can tell you. Okay, so what plugin am I using? I am using Alchemy, and it is the deep sub bass preset. And I didn't just use the preset on its own. I tweaked the settings a bit on it. Not the advanced settings of the synthesizer itself, but the like the cutoff and the modulation effects. So you're probably thinking, what do you mean by that? Now, generally in genres like dubstep, you've probably heard the term wub, which is like, you know, when your sound goes wub, wub, wub. It's literally that. So how do they make wubs? You know, you're probably wondering that as well. Well, they use something called a low frequency oscillator, which is what's this right here, you're probably wondering. This is called the modulator, and it is a plugin that's part of Logic. And you just click here and you open it. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you the automation for the wub. So we went to the X and Y axis of the pads there, and we, right here, you can see we changed the rate. So the rate knob's right here of the LFO, the low frequency oscillator cycle. And that's literally how you make wubs in Logic. That's one way. There's many other ways to do it, but for today, I'm just showing that way. I don't think there's much more to go into about the bass, to be honest. I added some linear phase EQ because I found that I was getting a bit of distortion that I didn't want. Now you're probably thinking, well, Michael, why do you have distortion on there? Well, it's because the type of distortion that we were getting with the other EQ wasn't a good kind of distortion. It was like a bad digital clipping kind of sound. This distortion here is different because it's basing itself off an analog circuit, even though it's still digital, but it's not clipping distortion. And clipping distortion is always something you want to avoid when you're mixing. If the meter's red, you're dead. That's kind of how my saying goes. I would have to look up the difference between a linear phase and a regular EQ, but I'm pretty sure the difference between a linear phase is its higher definition. So it will use more processing power. If processing power is an issue in your projects, don't use linear phase EQs. If you're going to use linear phase EQ, use it in the mastering chain of your plugin. Okay, so now we've covered the bass. Now let's go into the drums. Let's go into what makes these drums. Now, as you can see, unless you think using loops is cheating, using loops is not cheating. If anyone's told you that, unless the loops aren't royalty free and you're literally stealing them from people, it's not cheating to use loops. Especially if you put your own twist onto them. and you make them different than what they originally were. So here, I'll just be 100% transparent here. I got most of my drum and bass loops from Splice. And that's what Splice is for. Don't feel guilty to use Splice. Anyone who tells you that you're not a musician for using Splice isn't a musician themselves. Because like a lot of people who are famous on YouTube and a lot of really good, humble creators will say it's not about, you know, they'll actually say steal other people's music. Now, I don't mean literally steal people's music. What I mean by that is that all music is stolen, if you look at it that way. And the reason why I say it that way is because everyone uses someone else's art as a reference. References are fine, as long as it sounds different than the original artist. It's fine. So technically it's not stealing because it's your interpretation of someone else's idea, which is 100% unique and original. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. That's one thing that I would have loved to have learned when I first started making music, was to not get so caught up in the talk about what you should and shouldn't do with music. I mean, really, art is subjective. Like, you know, it's not something that isn't unique. Unless you're blatantly taking other people's projects and making the exact same copy of it, then yes, that's stealing. Anyways, I could ramble on about this for hours, but using other people's work as ideas or references is totally fine. You won't get better if you don't try to copy other people's work, and you'll learn how to add your own flavor and your own twist to your tracks. Anyways, I might make a whole new video on that part that I rambled on. Let's get back to the drum samples. Okay, so what I did was I used Splice samples. So as you can hear, it's a nice sample. Nice and syncopated. Got kind of like a flow to it. And then we got another drum sample here. Kind of give it a little bit more oomph, as I like to say. And then we got another sample called Timber. Kind of gives it that crunch. And then I used the sample for the kick too. But as you can hear, when there's no effects on the kick, this is what the kick sounds like. It sounds okay. But when you add the equalizer and the distortion, it's way more punchy. And that's what I mean. It's not stealing if you're adding your own twist to it. If it's royalty free, you can use it in your music. And I was always paranoid about that when I first started making music. Like, are my tracks commercially cleared? And the direct answer is yes. Yes, they're all commercially cleared. But that doesn't mean that you go taking my music and re-releasing it under a different name, because that's plagiarism. Same if I were to do that for someone else. Anyway, I don't have to justify myself, but... And then I added some more snare. So these are these are samples, but they're through Logic's built-in sampler. So this is actually a default patch called Infinity Kit. And if you have Logic Pro X or Pro 11 or whatever the hell it's called now. I don't know, they keep on updating stuff, so I can't keep up with it. But anyways, if you own a copy of Logic, that will be in your, I think you have to download it if you go to Logic Pro, and then you go to Sound Library, and you hit download all available sounds, it'll be in there. I added a snare. Sounds pretty good. And then, let's see, what else did I do for drums? I think that's Oh, no. That's not it for drums. I added some AI drums. Now, you probably think, AI? God, why would you use AI in your music? Well, it's a little bit different than just straight up getting AI to do everything for you. You actually have to know what you're doing to use this. Not just anyone can pick this up, and I mean, anyone could, but you're not going to get the same results if you don't know how to use it. So I added some acoustic kind of drum sounds. Let's just solo those sounds. So this is the AI drums. Now, of course, you got to program them. You can't just plop them in the magic. Like I said. So this is drums that I program in. And these are also part of Logic software. The AI drums as well are in the new update. If you have an M1 processor on your Mac, you can use AI drummer, or whatever it's called. Actually, I can tell you exactly what it's called. It's called Session Drummer. And they have Session Bass Player, Session Keyboard Player. They're actually pretty cool sounding. I recommend checking them out. I could do another video on that if anyone's interested in it. But yeah. Okay, so here's the drums that I programmed in. Even the snare. And then all this right here is stuff from Splice. But let's talk about the EQ. So generally when I'm mixing kick and bass, I like to push the kick up about 2 to 3 decibels at 100 hertz. And then you do the opposite to the bass. You pull it down negative 2 or 3 decibels at 100 hertz. So it makes room for the other sound, so they're not fighting for space. And it just sounds better. So let's do a comparison. Let's show you what it's like without. I don't know if you can hear it through my iPhone microphone, but if you can hear a difference, let me know. Okay, so we're going to open up the EQ. Both those, so we're going to turn the EQ off on both ends. This is what it sounds like without the EQ. So the kick's kind of dominating the mix. So now let's put the EQ on. It sounds more in control, which is what we want. Okay, so that's the kick and the bass. We went over the drums. And what else is there in the song? Oh yeah, the lead sound. So this is also another preset from Logic. Alchemy is the synthesizer we use. It's called 8 Light Years From Here is the preset name. And I mixed it with White in Your Eyes. And now that is a preset that is from the synthesizer Massive. That is not included in Logic. That's part of Native Instruments. Let's show you what those two sounds sound like. Now, I didn't do anything to this sound other than change the attack and the release so that it clicks in right away. It's kind of cool. And then when you add everything all together, it sounds like this. And I added some synthesizer pads. I think I also automated those. Yeah, I did. So they come in soft. Now automation. Let's see. Let me show you the automation. Oh, wrong plugin. As you can see, this is moving. I'm not clicking or touching anything. It's because that's what automation does. It automatically moves parameters for you. Hence the name automation. And what else can I say about this track? There's a few more splice sounds, like the thunder in the beginning, and the rain. Yeah. I don't know if I was talking about this in this video, but I used a reference track in this song. And of course, I'm not going to play the reference track because God knows what YouTube's going to do. So if I do, but it's called Tides. It's a really good song. I highly recommend checking it out. I think I'll put a link in the description to the YouTube video for the song, just so that you guys can hear kind of what it's modeled after. But basically, what I use is I use it for reference. So as you can see, it kind of follows the ebb and flow of the waveform here, like the structure. I mainly used it for getting the structure of the song nailed down and figuring out where to add leads and, you know, my special effects and everything. You know, the song's modeled after it. Of course, it's completely unique from it. Yeah, that's pretty much everything about this track. If I missed anything or there's anything else you guys want to know about or learn about, please let me know in the comments section. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It really helps out. And comment. Always comment on my videos if you can, especially if you have questions. But not only that, it gets me more views. And hit the like button. That really helps out as well. Yeah, so I guess I will play the outro music for this song. And if you want to check out the full song, please listen to it on my YouTube. Give me a thumbs up and leave a comment if you like it. And my music, some of my music's also on Spotify. I generally will upload to YouTube first because there's a more viewership there, I find. And I think YouTube needs more cool artists to upload music. So, you know, if you're an artist and you're starting out, upload your stuff to YouTube. Even if you don't think it's that great, upload it, because the only way you can get better is practicing and trying to do the best you can do. Because if you're doing the best you can do, no one can fault you for that. That's one best piece of advice I would give someone beginning out in the music thing. I mean, here's the thing. The industry is like horrendously barbaric. Like it's savage. It's so hard to get into. Like, honestly, you're more likely to get struck by lightning than make money off of music, in my opinion. But don't give up. Don't let that deter you, because yeah, how else do you think the other people got up there? You gotta slowly climb your way up to the top. But that's not all. That's not the only reason I make music. The reason why I actually make music is because it's a way of me expressing my emotions and my soul and kind of just the beauty of it all. That's why I make music. I don't make music because of the views and because of all that. I make music because I enjoy making music. And if you take that enjoyment out of making music, then you're not really making music anymore. So yeah, that's kind of some advice I can give. And okay, well, thank you for watching my video.